Are you looking for a great Saskatchewan city to buy real estate in? This week, realtor Dave Cadoon joins me as we explore the city of Lloydminster and why it might be the perfect real estate opportunity for you. Hope you enjoy.
This is the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast, the show that highlights Saskatchewan real estate. Looking to buy your first house, your next investment property? Subscribe to never miss an episode. Here's your host, Ron Caroni.
Hello and welcome back to the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Ron Caroni. Here on the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast, we love to touch on all things Saskatchewan and all things real estate. If this is the type of content that you're looking for, make sure to like and subscribe to catch our videos that come out every single Monday. Now, I said everything Saskatchewan, but this time we're venturing just a little bit beyond the borders as well, as there is a major border city in Saskatchewan, and it's Lloydminster, and it also splits Alberta as well. And here to help explain this wonderful city is realtor Dave Cadoon. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dave. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing your expertise on Lloydminster.
Oh, thanks for having me, Ron. Appreciate it.
Just before we get into all things Lloydminster, just give us a breakdown of yourself, Dave, and your experience with real estate.
All right, absolutely. So I've been a realtor since January of 2015. I transitioned into this business after retiring from the police force. I was in the RCMP. And I've done most of my real estate career here in Lloydminster, took a short hiatus and actually moved to Calgary when my wife transferred with work for a brief period in 2015, and then came back to the border city. So I've delved in residential, commercial, agricultural, recreational, and like you mentioned, two sides of the border, licensed on both sides. So Alberta and Saskatchewan. I have had to learn a lot.
We connected previously. It was at an EXP conference, and I was asking you that question. Like, when you buy and sell in a city that is split between Saskatchewan and Alberta, do you have to be licensed, or is there some kind of grandfather clause that can you sell, or what's the protocol around that, Dave?
You do have to be licensed in both provinces. So I think there's two agents in Lloydminster who are not licensed in the neighboring province just by their own choices. It definitely limits you in regards to the city because it means you cannot deal with properties on the other side of the border. For the most part, though, what agents do here, you take a course either in Saskatchewan or in Alberta. Once you get your license in that province, you reciprocate with the other province, challenge the exam, and you obtain your license on the other side. Now, with that being said, two licenses, two fees, two different sets of rules. Although they are very similar, there are some tweaks in between the provinces that we have to know about.
It could be a big benefit to you as well if you're able to cross border and do deals in different provinces. So like you say, there are some cons to that, but yeah, a really interesting quirk about Lloydminster and buying and selling real estate there. Let's get a little bit more information about the city though, Dave. Tell us about Lloydminster just on a Coles Notes, population, and kind of what you're seeing for demographic there.
Absolutely. So what we have here for population, we're about 33,000. It was at 35,000 at the height of the oil boom. The city is definitely known for oil, heavy oil refining in the area. We have the Cenovus upgrader, Cenovus refinery in the city. Again, it was primarily an oil city up until 2014 when oil crashed. Then the city had to diversify. So along with oil, we do deal with agricultural. Commercial development is getting big here in the city. We're seeing oil field companies actually coming back now. And we're also seeing more industrial buildings coming to the community. So we're going back to growing. And should oil ever take a tank again, the community won't get hurt as bad this time.
So go ahead, Dave.
No, I was going to say demographic wise, it's definitely a family community. Now we see professionals coming in here, whether it's being with oil or with agricultural or with the commercial, and they're starting to I should say, start to grow the community, and people are staying. They're not transitioning and moving away.
When we're talking about Alberta versus Saskatchewan, I know here in Saskatchewan, things are pretty steady Eddie. So that means that on the highs, we don't really see as much appreciation as some of the rest of the country. And we also don't see some of the lows. We don't get these big crashes. Now, on just a broad basis, is Lloydminster very similar to other Alberta cities where when oil is good, we're seeing, good economy, things are rolling, high real estate prices. And then when oil is coming down, that we're also feeling that effect through the real estate market. Is that a broad market thing, Dave? Or is it specifically Lloydminster and a few other towns that are very oil based?
Honestly, even, with oil making a bit of its comeback, if oil was to skyrocket again, this community would just boom. There'd be a huge boom because oil still is a big driving factor of the community. Comparing it to other places in Alberta or Saskatchewan, it's kind of hard. Looking at Alberta, Lloydminster is the ugly cousin because we're right on the border, right in the middle of nowhere. Saskatchewan, we can refer to it the same way, and I think that's how I referred it to you when we first met. People don't really think about Lloydminster when they think about Saskatchewan, and they don't think about Lloydminster when they think about Alberta because we are right in the middle. Driving real estate prices, Edmonton has been hot for the past 4 years. Saskatoon, we'll use that for an example as well. It's been hot. Lloydminster hasn't hit that hot streak. We almost did in April of 2022. And then as the interest rates started to climb, we cooled right off. Honestly, we've been in a buyer's market since 2015. So if there's people are looking to invest in low real estate prices for rentals, this is the place to do it because there's no rentals to be had. We've got some big projects that are starting right now. Construction companies, guys can't find rentals, and the rates are going up.
And so what are you telling someone who's an outside investor? They're not living in Yorkton, but you're kind of saying like, hey, there might be some great opportunity here because all of these other cities have seen this appreciation, but Lloydminster is still kind of, riding the coattails of oil. And if we do see higher oil prices, you're going to see extreme demand just pop up. Is that what is that the synopsis, Dave?
That's exactly it. There are properties out here that they could still use some love. People could put some money into them, and if you can hang on to them for a couple of years, their appreciation will definitely go up. We're going to have a shortage of houses here in about 18 months. We still have a good number of homes. Like right now, there's 263 homes for sale in the city. That might sound like a lot, but honestly, it's not. We still have a hard time finding some homes for certain people. But as things get busier here, there's going to be a shortage. And by saying that, we're having a new arena being built. Construction starts this fall. That's bringing construction jobs to the city, but a lot of those construction jobs will be moving away once it's being once it's completed 2 years down the road. The other thing that's being built, there's a new biodiesel refinery being built. Construction is supposed to start on that this fall. 600 construction jobs and 100 full-time jobs when that thing is up and running in about 18 months. And that's going to drive the economy bigger, and it's going to result in our housing shortage. So we're kind of telling people, just be prepared. There's going to be a shortage because the builders are trying to keep up with it right now. Lloydminster will be a hotspot again.
What can you say to someone who's thinking about moving to Lloydminster and they're maybe wanting to take advantage of some of those good high-paying jobs that could be available in the oil sector, but they're also wanting to bring their kids, their wife? What amenities are around the city for a young family?
So hockey's a big one. We're Saskatchewan, Alberta. Hockey is big in general. That's one of the projects that's being built here. It's called Lloydminster Place. It's going to be a 5,000 seat arena with a secondary unit attached right next door to it. Commercial space out in the parking lot area. Ball diamonds coming in the future in there as well. So that's one thing that the city is going to be having. Along with that, we have other indoor facilities that consist of 2 arenas, indoor field houses. There's a dated indoor pool that will likely be replaced, I would assume, in the next 5 years as well. I know the city's working on that. They've got additional construction projects that are coming up. Costco has officially announced that they are coming to the city. They were supposed to be here in 2020, but the pandemic canceled that. But they are coming here. It's set to open in 2025 in the summer. That will spawn additional commercial development in the city. And then we've also got, with oil, we've got trucking companies that are expanding. We have drilling companies that are coming in, and we're actually starting to run out of space. There's a couple new residential developments that are going to be in the works in the next few years as well. It's one of those things where we have the jobs, we have the ability to continue to stay strong, and being on Highway 16, we're the corridor between Saskatoon and Edmonton.
If you were looking at like a perfect buyer for Lloydminster right now, Dave, who does that fit that bill? Is it someone who works in the oil and gas industry and you say like, now's the great time to relocate to Lloydminster and be well located for this? Is it something where you're telling a young family where maybe they don't have any background in the oil and ag industry that they could still move there and make a go of it? What are you saying, like an ideal buyer? Who would be like a perfect person to move to Lloydminster or invest there? I'll give you those two.
I would say teachers and young professionals and entrepreneurs. When you talk about oil field, let's, using Cenovus, they're moving people, executives in, but then they move out again, right? There's always a constant flux. And because of that, and even with oil, you never know when they're going to be coming and going. But teachers, there's always the teaching jobs. We have more schools that'll be planned here in the future. Young professionals, lawyers' offices, those types of things, they're growing. There are some small startups where entrepreneurs are starting to grow and use Lloydminster because the cost of living is a little bit lower than other places when you're talking about the city. And because the amenities are starting to come, that definitely can make a difference. Our airport does have WestJet flights that fly directly to Calgary. So if you're not wanting to drive to Edmonton or Saskatoon to catch a flight, you can fly directly out of Lloydminster. There's definitely some different options for people in regards to what they want. Again, shopping, we use the big thing, but it's not hard to drive 2 hours down the road to Edmonton or Saskatoon if you do need something.
Absolutely. Let's quickly touch on the real estate prices and how does it compare to, I'd say, your bigger cities that are close by, being Saskatoon and Edmonton. What are we talking about for a price point and how homes available for people?
So yeah, for price point, super affordable. We're talking median sale price of high 200,000s to low 300,000s for a 5-bedroom home that could be about 20 years old, with a double attached garage in neighborhoods that are attached, that have walking paths that are going to Bud Miller Park. There's new construction that is going to be similar to what you'll see in Saskatoon, Edmonton. But we find the new construction prices are a little bit higher than what you'll see in the city because there is more demand for them and less supply. So we always factor in that supply and demand. So here in Lloydminster does cost a little bit more to build new as opposed to buying a resale home. But there's definitely more value in regards to buying the resale home because you're going to have yourself a bigger lot. And it doesn't really matter what side of the border you buy on, whether it's the Saskatchewan side or the Alberta side, prices remain competitive. It just depends on what someone is looking for. There are some people, they do not want to live on the Alberta side. They want to stay in Saskatchewan, and it goes vice versa.
It can be a struggle sometimes, Dave, when we're looking to buy in smaller communities for investment purposes of finding property managers and someone who's going to help me manage my property when I'm 3, 4, 16 hours away. What can you say for someone who's watching this video, who doesn't live in the area, who's like, geez, this is really piquing my interest of potential investment property? Are there properties, are there buildings, are there companies in place that could help a person invest long distance?
Yes, there are 3 property management companies in the city. 2 of them are related related to real estate brokerages. One is a private one. They all do a decent job. Of course, the one that's related to the real estate brokerages, those two I always refer to because they are licensed, bonded, and insured. The private one is not. But if someone had a property here, it can be taken care of. Their fees are reasonable, and they do the background checks to get the proper people in. Like I said, rentals are hard to come by in this city. These companies do have some because some people just do not qualify for it. But for private, if someone wants to rent out on their own, there is more than enough demand.
We're kind of coming to the end of the interview. Just a few more questions here, Dave, but I did want to touch on, you'd mentioned recreation properties and what's nearby Lloydminster. If someone does have a young family or you're a young person who's looking for some weekend entertainment, what is around the area where you could say, yeah, this is a fantastic place to spend your fall, winter, spring, summer?
Well, for people in Saskatchewan, they will likely be familiar with Turtle Lake, especially if they're from the Saskatoon area. I know there's a lot of cabin owners up there that are from Saskatoon. We also deal with Saskatoon real estate agents who have properties listed there. We deal with Turtle Lake quite a bit. It's an hour and 20 minutes to the northeast of here. There's new development going up in that area as well for cabins. We call it like a suburb of Lloydminster because on the weekends, that's where people are going. They're either got their camper in the nearby Turtle Lake or Bright Sand Lake area, and that's where they're gravitating to. Close by, Sandy Beach is 10 minutes north of the city, regional park. People gravitate towards there. That's on the Saskatchewan side. And then other than that, you're looking at Loon Lake, an hour and 45 to the northeast. And as for Alberta, there's not a whole bunch on the Alberta side. There's Laurier Lake, which is about an hour and 20 to the northwest. And then Dillberry when we start going south of Lloydminster. But you're pushing yourself 45 minutes to an hour there. That's the one thing. We don't have much for lakes right on our doorstep. But they are close by. And when you're in Saskatchewan, you're not, I should say you are accustomed to driving to where you want to get somewhere.
I pound the drum on this because I think it's one of our most underrated things in Saskatchewan is just lake life. And you would know this, Dave, that, the Saskatchewan dream is to have your house and then also have the place at the lake. And there are hundreds of quality lakes that people go to on the weekend. And you're absolutely right that there is like a mass migration. Like the Canada geese head south during the winter and people from Saskatchewan head north during the summer because our lakes, our forests, they're very pristine and amazing for what you can get into. So a great point on that one. Just wrapping it up, Dave, what's your favorite thing about Lloydminster? And what would be like the one thing you would say, like, I love this about the city?
Diversity. It is a community that is diverse with culture. When we talk about the oil booms from earlier in the century, that brought a lot of people from different cultures to this community, and those cultures get celebrated throughout the year. That being said, you've got a lower cost of living. You're only a couple hours away from the big city, so you have some city amenities here, but with a small town feel, and you can get anywhere in the city within 10 minutes if you need to.
Awesome. What is a piece of advice, Dave, that you would give to a younger version of yourself if you could go back and whisper in your ear? What's that piece of advice?
Buy real estate sooner. You can afford it. And if you can get a home that is a duplex or has a basement suite, rent out the bottom, that would be something to jump into. It will build your credit. And with the way real estate prices appreciate, it's the way you're going to set yourself to financial freedom. Wish I would have known it when I was younger, but right. If I can pass it on now, that's what's going to happen.
And even if I could quickly coattail on that, Dave, you'd mentioned that like real estate prices were very high in 2014 in Lloydminster. And, we're just kind of getting back up to that point, maybe a little below. Even if you've owned your home during that time and you're just barely kind of getting to the point where you were in 2014, you're still farther ahead than you would be if you were just renting that whole time. You've still seen some equity pay down on that home. You've gotten to be the owner of the home. You're not paying someone else's rent. So yeah, absolutely. Buying real estate as early as you can is always a good idea and can set you up extremely well financially for the long term. If someone's moving to Lloydminster, or they've listened to this conversation, Dave, and they're like, geez, this is a place I need to know more about, how can they get in contact with you? Where can they follow you? How do they reach out to you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. Just search my name, Dave Kadun, Kadun. You'll find me on there. You can also find me online. davekadun.com is my website. You can, and even if you do a quick search on Facebook, I'm easily reachable, and by cell phone 639-536-0401. If I don't catch your call, leave a message. I'll call you back as soon as I can.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dave. Really appreciate your take on Lloydminster. It's been a community that I've wanted to touch on because it is technically a city in Saskatchewan, but it is that kind of, well, it is Alberta, it is Saskatchewan. And I was really fortunate that I ran into you and that you were willing to just sit down and share your knowledge about this great city. So thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, Ron. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode of the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. I hope you enjoyed and found some value here. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe to never miss any future videos. Keep in mind, if you're buying real estate in Saskatchewan, then I'm a fully licensed mortgage broker. I would be happy to help you out with your next purchase, renewal, or refinance. Until next week, I'm Ron Caroni, your Saskatchewan mortgage professional. Bye for now.